The outrageous Okana is eating a blue apple. Dal is a human augment blended with the most recessive traits of 26 species. I bet more on that in a moment. And Rock Talk believes science rules and science needs rules. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
And of course, Prodigy's own Bonnie Gordon.
That's me!
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Prodigy Season 1, Episode 15, entitled Masquerade, directed by Sung Shin and written by Nikhil S. Jayaram. Our very special guest today, you know him, you love him. He's the Dean of Arts and Sciences at Duke University. And of course, something a little bit more relevant to today, he's an occasional Star Trek science advisor. Dr. MOHAMED NOOR is here.
Hello. Pleasure to be on I almost said the main viewer, on Seventh Rule.
Say that too, whatever.
That too.
All right. So first and foremost, MOHAMED, why are you here today? Tell everybody.
That's a good question. So, let me preface with the disclaimer. So, the science advisor for the entire Star Trek universe is Dr. Erin McDonald. So, she consults on all the Star Trek shows everywhere. Occasionally, either the writer's room or Dr. Erin herself will reach out to somebody for some help on some specific topic. As Dr. Erin says, she doesn't like the squishy things, all the biological things. So this particular episode, she got permission from the showrunners to reach out to me on a couple of the genetics aspects. So I think that's why I'm here. But maybe because you love me. No, I'm just kidding.
And that too.
Why not both?
Thank you. I love you guys too.
Genetics.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. I mean, it's so neat that we finally got to have a, I wouldn't call it an Easter egg. We're basically finally knowing what Dal is.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's been like a big mystery for all of Prodigy, and the secret's out. And I love that we found out this way. Discovering it kind of with him as well, and in a very not great way, but it was interesting story-wise, in my opinion.
It's fascinating how long it took to get to this point. So I looked up to see when the exchange I had with Dr. Erin McDonald was about this. The subject line of the email was Nickelodeon Star Trek show, because I think it was before it was announced as Prodigy. This was February 2020, before the pandemic had really hit the U.S. hard. So
wow,
it's way, way back, and it was literally like
since then.
Yeah, exactly. The world has changed, but the script is fairly similar.
It's insane how long people I think take for granted how long animation takes, and they've been working on this show for so long. I mean, I recorded scratch vocals for the pilot in early 2020, so like that's how long everything just takes. Yeah, It's insane.
Mom, and one of the things that I really love about the show is that it's like an adventure, but it's also got the education in there as well. Mm-hmm. It's also got a lot of motivational type of words of encouragement for developing social skills and kind of finding yourself when you're in the transition phase of adolescence. My question, I guess, is more about the science. I enjoy the science, love the science, love hearing about double helixes and all types of cytosine and thymine and all of these things. But is the science, is it relative? Do you think it's relative, or is it going like only reaching people who really have that deep understanding about these kinds of concepts? Is that age level appropriate for where they would be about in their age?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cirroc. I would say it's actually reaching high. I mean, if the target audience is people who are, say, 10-year-olds or something like that, which I always like to say it's a family show, not a kid's show, but still, if your target audience is 10-year-olds, it's aiming high. Because maybe the ones that Ryan just said, like thymine and guanine, things like that, those may have been things that they may have heard, but even that's a little bit of a stretch. When you start getting to epigenetic dermal implants, okay, now solidly past what these kids would. And to be clear, epigenetic dermal implants was not something I added. That was actually already there, as well as, for example, the different nucleotides there, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. Those were already there in the script. I was adding things like on top of that yet, which was getting into more truly like professional levels of like what scientists actually are working on. So like the hybrid speciation angle, for example, that's something that maybe, I mean, I doubt any high school students ever go over hybrid speciation, but when you get to college, then you start getting that in some of the advanced biology classes. So it's definitely aiming high. But I love that because the idea is that if we explain it a little bit, kids will get it well enough, and you're exposing them to this and getting them excited about the science in there. So I love that it's a stretch goal, like you'd say.
Yeah, I think that's what's most important about it. I think that's why this is such a great family show, is that it piques children's interest. I think the biggest goal is to get the child to turn around and ask their parent or guardian, what's cytosine? And the parent or guardian says,
we'll probably not know either.
Yeah, we'll either explain it in a way that their child's level matches. You know, they either
let me call Dr. MOHAMED NOOR.
There you go. My phone's ringing out. No.
They know where their kid is. If their kid's 5 or their kid's 15, they explain it in a way that their kid's going to understand. Or they go, I don't know, let's look it up together. Because they have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I love that like Rock Talk or one of the other characters would just at least give a brief enough explanation that you at least get the gist of it, even if you don't know the nitty gritty of it. I'm sorry.
And I love. Oh no, I was just saying I love how they show. You know, when it comes to this show in particular, I love that they're showing these kids really pursuing their interests and like how Zero is pursuing medical and going in that direction, how they all have their interests and they're pursuing it and like finding their own strengths, and Rock Talk being so interested in science and how it the joy she finds in it. And I just think kids today, you know, if they show excitement over something that other kids might think as not cool, like if you're at school and you're excited about science class, you know, the other kids might be like, but it's just neat so that they see themselves in that. Like, what if there's this kid who's so interested in science and biology, but like they're not very vocal about it with their friends because it's, you know, they don't want to be considered like uncool. And now there's like a show that shows a child interested in science and pursuing science and, you know, exploring and reaching out to learn more. And I think that's a great, these characters are great role models for children.
100%.
And we all grow with them, you know?
Mohammed, they said that Dal was made up of like 26 different species, but were they making reference of the worst of the species, like their worst traits, or what were they saying by that?
That's a great question. So they did say it was material from a bunch of different species, and that's where the piece that I added in was like, let's call it hybrid speciation. So there's a couple of species. I'll just give a little bit of context on this. If you have two species interbreed, and then you mix up a lot of genetic material, and eventually that combination becomes its own separate species. That is what hybrid speciation is. Now, they did make a comment in there. Dr. Jago made a comment there about like, oh, you've got some of the worst stuff. I took that more as hyperbole as opposed to like there was an intentional, I'm picking the worst parts of these different things and putting them together. I just took that as some hyperbole, like, oh, essentially they should have cut out X, Y, or Z, but they just put in all these other things, like maybe the stuff that made Doll vomit green stuff or things like that in there.
Or like maybe meaning like a lot of the qualities that he had were like that, or he didn't have, were like dormant to where.
Yeah, they did say that a lot of those traits were recessive. So recessive is like
recessive. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So if you have two copies, let's say you have a brown eye gene variant and a blue eye gene variant, but your eyes are brown, then brown is dominant and blue is recessive. That's what that means in that kind. So in that sense, it's not. Although he has a lot of those genes for those traits, those genes are not manifesting the trait that would come out because of that. So yeah, that's where that got put in. But again, they had actually already. It's interesting how much science was in the draft I already got, and basically it was just now level this up and put the things around that to make it even further along. But I was impressed when I got it. Like, wow, you guys your science here already pretty well. This is good. I actually took something out, which was a mistake because I didn't know the details. There was something in there about skull polydactyly in the original version I got, which basically means having fingers. I said, cut that out. Skulls don't have fingers. But I'd never seen Doll, so I didn't know.
Oh, right. You didn't know that they had already established.
I didn't know what he looked like.
They didn't release any of those character designs or anything yet. So
yeah, no,
wow.
And they would only
Crazy.
share with me enough to like I didn't know Janeway was in the show. I didn't like you only get in this sort of context, you only get the bare minimum of what it needs to for this particular thing, and that makes sense. It's completely fair.
Wow, they and that's one of the issues that they dealt with in this episode, which I really like. It's the idea of improving yourself. It doesn't have to necessarily be in this genetic way, like Dal experiences by having this metamorphosis happening, but it could also be in a cosmetic way. People going to get facelifts and augment their body or whatever to basically quote unquote fix themselves. I think that was one of the lines in here. I can fix you, and I thought that really resonated with me because that's another issue, once again, that, just young people going to deal with as they grow up, as their body changes,
and adults.
Yeah, and adults. Just insecurities about how they look, how they feel, and they want to somehow find a way to fix it, as opposed to accept certain things that are kind of, just a part of who you are, your traits or whatnot. I thought they dealt with that in a good way, and they're going to probably continue to, because obviously this is the beginning of it. But I do like the subject matter.
I completely agree, and it is actually timely in a broader scientific sense. Yeah, I agree with you completely in the context of kids and body image for kids and adults and things like that. But also, there's the ethical issues now around a lot of genetics in the context of, say, designer babies. So we can go through and edit somebody's embryo to be more like this, and
Dr.
to your point, Cirroc. Yeah, to your point, Cirroc, what is bad enough that it's worth going in and editing? For example, if there's a mutation in there that's lethal that will cause the kid to die at age 2. That's fairly non-controversial. Go and fix that. But then at what point do you stop? At one point you say well, they're not so attractive with dark hair. Maybe they should have blonde hair. Maybe they're not so, where between those extremes is
7 foot tall.
7 foot tall, exactly. But what's nice here is they didn't do it in the context of embryos, because that would never have worked for an existing person. So they did it in the context of something you can just turn on in somebody who's already an adult. And that's why they had that epigenetic dermal implant. So with epigenetics, what that means is it's literally turning on or turning off specific genes that you already have, right? So the one piece I asked them to add to that is something that also stimulates the rate of cell division to be higher. Because let's say I turned on a gene that would make, I probably have genes that would make me make a tail, but if you turn them on, I wouldn't just grow a tail. It wouldn't be instantaneous. It would take a long time for that to happen. But by adding this piece about stimulating the rate of cell division, it's like, okay, now it actually will come out fairly quickly, in the course of an episode. So that's the kind of things they're asking for consultation on. What should we add to make this so it actually works in the time of a show, as opposed to
make the science make sense if it were possible. Yeah,
exactly.
So the accelerated rate of kind of this thing maturing inside of Dal.
Exactly.
That kind of piques my interest a little bit, Mohammed. What kind of genes do we have in the human body that are not activated or accelerated, like a tail? We've got the coccyx bone and all that stuff, but it kind of just stays there rather than sticking out and giving us better balance.
Well, a great example of a gene that we have that's a dead gene. So most genes that we have that are not actually creating a trait at all are probably there may be remnants there, but they've probably been broken up such that even if you did turn them on, they probably wouldn't work, right? Because there's been no pressure to keep them intact if they're never manifesting the trait. So, but one example of that is the vitamin C gene, right? So we actually have a gene that produces vitamin C, but it doesn't work for us. This is why we need vitamin C in our diet. Whereas let's say, for example, you have a dog or a cat. They never need vitamin C tablets. They just produce their own vitamin C.
Really?
But for us, that gene was broken.
Crazy.
Right?
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Well, what happened probably, and this is speculation now, what probably happened is at some point in history, there was just so much vitamin C in our diet that it didn't matter when some mutations came up that broke that gene. And eventually everybody had the broken version. And then, then people decided they wanted to sail across the ocean. But oops, now they get scurvy. Right? Yeah. But yeah, we actually have the gene, but it's broken for us, and a decent number of other primates too. But dogs, cats, they have it fine.
That's crazy. So I just need to steal my cat's vitamin C. You're saying?
There you go.
Don't eat a cat,
come here,
everybody. Run, kitty, run.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that. No.
So Mohammed, would that be something that could potentially be engineered in the future, like some way to activate that dormant gene inside of us to make us produce vitamin C?
You probably have to do 2 steps. You probably have to first like error correct it, because like I said, it probably has some mutations that actually like break it. Not just that it's turned off, but actually like parts of it are broken. But if you did both, if you did something which would correct it, and then did something which would turn it on, I mean, I don't think we could easily do that right now, but I could easily imagine we'd have the ability to do that within the next 50 years, easily.
Wow.
Now I don't know about for adults as much as for like an embryo, because that's a lot easier to fix in an embryo because you've only got one cell to work with, and then it just spreads itself. But for us, like let's say you fixed one in one of your skin cells, well, like okay, that spot can make vitamin C.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I have another question.
Sure, no, I love this.
We're deep
I know this is so interesting.
We're taking a college course right now. I love it.
Right.
We're going to talk about Jellico too later.
So there were certain things that were altered about his physical appearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were also things about his personality I felt like were shifting, even his voice and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But how specific is the ability to target something? For example, would you be able to specifically target somebody's, a very specific behavioral pattern? For example, let me say, people love sweets. Would you be able to take away the love for sweets, for example, from somebody through this exact same methodology?
Why did you do that? Why am I being attacked right now?
Because you're so sweet, buddy.
There you go.
I'm trying to get off of it.
Don't attack my sweet tooth, Cirroc. It never hurt
quickly,
you.
That reminds me of a joke I saw. I don't remember where I saw it, but it was like one of those memes. And then it's a guy and a girl going to a movie theater, and they're at the concession line, and the guy says, "Would you like sweet or salty popcorn?" And the guy says, "I like my popcorn like my girlfriend." And he says, "We don't have ugly popcorn."
Oh,
which is hilarious to me. I don't know. Anyway, please continue, Mohammed. We'll clip that part out.
So, I mean, your question's a good one, Sark. It really would depend on the trait. I mean, this comes back to the concept of like how heritable is a trait, like how much is there genetic determinism to a particular trait. So for example, like Vulcan logic, that obviously is not genetic. So the point where he decided, well, this would be illogical, it's good for the story, but that doesn't really that would never be in their genes to suddenly be more logical or something like that. In contrast,
it would be more an experiment. It would be more of an experience thing by growing up in the culture. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. So there are some things which would never work that way. Behaviors, I mean, there's a mix. I mean, there's some behaviors. So let's say, for example, your ability to taste sweet. That probably is a little bit more heavily genetic, but it might not be completely so. I mean, there might be some things where like you've honed your ability to taste certain things because you've had so much practice tasting it over your life. So if you just suddenly change the genes, it may or may not do it exactly that way. So yeah, most traits have some genetic component and some sort of environmental component. Is it, or like people like to say nature versus nurture and stuff like that. It's almost always both.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question that I don't know why, but Mohammed, please forgive us. This is fascinating. And everybody at home, you see what Prodigy does for kids? Mohammed does for adults.
Hey, Prodigy.
So is it possible, and do we already have the capacity for, say, like a sixth sense, whatever that may be? Because I feel like some of these characters on Prodigy may have a sixth sense, like maybe, Dal's wiggly thing. I can't remember what they call it. On the back of his head.
Tail or whatever.
Yeah, maybe it's got like some kind of sensory.
It's wiggle waggle.
And other animals, they have like sonar or whatever like that, which I guess is hearing. But anyway, do we have anything that's inside our genetic makeup that could be a sixth sense of any type?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that for sure.
We only use like 10% of our brain, right?
Yeah.
Is that the thing?
So you're getting at where I was going to go, Bonnie. So I suspect that there are probably building blocks that could be leveraged for things that we don't do. Now, like, are all the building blocks there, or just like 70% of the building blocks and you're missing the critical one? So for example, let's say sharks do like this electroreception. We probably don't have electroreceptors, but maybe we have some of the raw materials that could be used to make an electroreceptor that just aren't turned on and off and specifically put in the right spots. That's harder to know. I mean, it's hard to know unless it's something that we've recently lost, like the vitamin C gene. There we know we had it because we can see what it was. But
would electroreception be considered another sense, or is that touch?
No, it's different. It's different.
Okay.
I mean, it's at least a different kind of touch, but I would consider
so they have
it different.
6, those luckies.
Maybe they don't taste as well. Like all fish taste the same.
Yeah, they're bitter.
All fish. Not all fish taste the same. Do we all look alike to you, Mohammed? All the fish are angry and start boycotting Mohammed.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys had it, but I had like a tearjerk moment when Dal was telling Gwen, "I just want you to look at me the way you look at." That kind of.
What a moment! Also,
yeah.
The dialogue between the two of them this whole episode where she was like, you don't need to be fixed, you don't, basically letting him know that he's loved just the way he is. And I feel like that's a message everyone, whether your age, should hear.
He said, I just didn't want to be a mistake. I was like, man, you're not a mistake.
That was interesting that he assumed he was a mistake. I guess it was taking what Dr. Jago said in the context of like you got the worst parts or something like that. But there was nothing. I mean, why would somebody make a mistake? Like like they would just make him. Why? It was interesting that he assumed that was somehow not the intentional product, which I wouldn't assume that. But maybe he was overinterpreting those words from her in that sense.
Right.
And I do love that they during his physical transformations we got to see so many different. We got to see all different kind of species at once. Like, you could see the Andorian antennas, the Vulcan ears, the Klingon ridges. And then all of a sudden he had, I think, a Tellurite nose and tusks for a little bit. Yeah. It was so fun to see them all just kind of like start popping up and merging together. I kind of want to rewatch it and really dissect those scenes where he's physically changing. Because I bet you they put more Easter eggs in there and more have him transforming into more different species that we just didn't catch, because we were looking at the prominent ones that we immediately saw and that we recognized.
I bet Ryan caught the reference to a proto-Organian. That was very interesting. So the Organians were... Oh,
I did.
When you say Organian, I think Organa.
Oh, no, so
that's what I think.
Were in the original series. They're the episode that had John Colicos in it as a Klingon in there. But they're basically like these sheep herders, but at the very end, they could just turn into light and just like float away and things like that. So I'm guessing they did, I don't know, but I'm guessing they put the proto there in the front because they had to do the humanoid version of Organian. So it would have been like in their history, as opposed to like this light being, because obviously like Dal can just turn to light and float away.
So he would be a photo-Organian, am I right?
A non-photo Organian.
Yeah, that's a science joke.
No. I thought Dal looked a lot like Shrek when he was going into that.
It's true, a purple Shrek.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I like it.
I thought they could have called this episode Star Shrek.
Okay. Excellent work. Excellent.
I'm just going to boo all of the jokes.
He sets himself up. He throws the pass and catches the touchdown himself.
I know we're talking about all the science and and the cool stuff that happened, but can we please talk about the cliffhanger? Because I wasn't expecting that at all.
No.
I've been a part of this show for years now, and I don't get the full scripts anymore. Now that I'm not doing Scratch for the lead characters, I don't get the full scripts anymore. So I had no idea. I legitimately gasped out loud going, wait a minute. So I was kind of mad at myself for not knowing.
You know what was really interesting was on Twitter last week, somebody commented or replied to Aaron Waltke and said, Ensign Essentia and Gwen have the same eyes.
Ooh.
And I was like, because I knew about this. I had found out about this just like that day or prior. And I was like, whoa, somebody's
That's
being very
so
observant.
Wow. Well, they do have the same body type as well. Very tall, thin, lanky. Like they have the same like body structure. And
I trusted her.
And like facial structure. Yeah, right. I was thinking like, oh, this is what a cool character, you know?
Oh, so much better. Yeah. Give her
but
depth.
Now it explains a little bit more about the reaction of seeing Gwen.
Yes.
Whenever, and like her surprise when he said he had like a daughter and whatnot. So to where when she recognized her right away, like Gwendala.
Yeah.
She recognized her own kind, which I thought now I want to go back and watch the Crossroads episode, because I'm like, wait a minute, I want to dissect those interactions a little bit more, because now that we know who she truly is, I want to go and see how she actually reacted to meeting Gwen. I'm just gonna go rewatch everything anyway. What am I saying?
The only hint that I saw in hindsight, but it wasn't really a good hint in hindsight, but it was in the intro sequence. It still has Dreadnought, which I was always like, that's funny. Isn't he like long gone now? But
he's been in the credits every time. That's why and now we know he's just chilling as a table.
He's been there. We just didn't know it.
He's been in every episode. He's just been the coffee table for the
Transformer.
Yeah. Like Odo was like a food cart one time, if you remember that.
Or a briefcase. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
I recognize this admiral who was talking to
Jellico. All right, here we go. We can spend the rest of the show talking about this guy, because I'm in love with Captain Jellico, aka Admiral Jellico, aka Badmiral Jellico now. He's in the Next Generation Cirroc, so you will be seeing him soon, kind of soon, because everybody knows Cirroc and I are moving over to Next Generation coverage once we complete our Deep Space Nine coverage. What'd you think?
I want to come.
What'd you think
of him?
On
for the ride.
He's
from all the movies that I remember back in the day. He's the big actor from the 80s or 90s, right?
Oh, I think he was in Total Recall or something.
Total Recall, yeah, he was in Total Recall. That's what I remember him from. And
Ducat was too, by the way. Mark Alimo, I believe, was in Total Recall. If I remember correctly, I think.
Wow, this is a good.
All the nice guys of Star Trek.
Yeah. No, I recognize his voice. Love his performance. It takes a certain kind of person to be able to kind of to give orders to Kate Mulgrew, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to have a certain level of seniority in your voice and just in your status. And I believe that he has that in his voice. So I instantly recognized his voice and said, hey, wait a minute. This is not just any guest star. This is somebody that's we've seen before and I've heard before. It was good to see him. And I also like the idea that also of the whole, they're going to visit a planet that is involved in kind of extracurricular activities that are not really sanctioned by Starfleet. Thought that was just a small little gem, but it made me kind of suspend belief for a little bit and go enter that world. I liked it.
Okay, so real quick, I just want to point out these two in Total Recall. We did get that correct. This is Ronnie Cox in Total Recall, right across from Arnold Schwarzenegger here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looks just like the Admiral.
Yeah.
And also, this is now Mark Alimo in Total Recall, another sweetie.
Wow, there it is.
It's like a major
young
or something
guy.
like that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And I think that guy was also like in RoboCop or something. Like I feel like he's been in those kinds of movies back in those days. That genre.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I did like to see him. I thought he was pretty good. And I also have a question. Were they making a reference to Eric Sung, and is that Data?
Yeah,
no, that's from
the original. It's basically the ancestors of Eric Sung are the people that did all these genetic stuff and eugenics, and what's his name, Dr. Noonien Sung, his ancestor created Data. So yes, Data is a product of this guy's work.
But Eric Sung was in Enterprise, so it was played by Brent Spiner again. And at the time, he had made these. Exactly. He had made these human augments and stuff like that back in Enterprise in that series too. So that was a direct connection back to that. And I think they didn't say it was they said it was like the proteges of Eric Sung. So people who at least worked with him had gone on to create Doll.
Continues work.
That's
yeah.
really cool.
You'll get a Spiner. You get a Spiner.
Which I think was kind of a smart way to do it, because it might be a little bit on the nose if the Sungs create everything. Like if every series comes back to the Sung, but this is like proteges of him. Like, kind of it spread out a little bit and kind of went into different directions, his studies.
He's kind of like a cult leader when you think about it.
Yeah,
it's like he's done a lot.
And there was a connection from Picard to Eric Soong. I don't remember if you remember there in season 2 of Picard. There was at the very end. I forget what the name of that Soong guy was. It Aaron Soong or something like that. But at the very end, he had this like Project Con folder he pulled out there. So that's
Project Con.
Yeah.
Arrows?
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah,
it all connects.
Like that.
I guess we'll find out soon.
Okay. I cheered for your last one, Cirroc.
I can't even boo that one.
It's not even worth the response. Murf, what about Murf kind of breakout action hero moment in this?
They're little security officer now. I love how he's in a ball. First of all, I thought it was so cute when they were going down on the away mission that Rock Talk is carrying him like a little mother,
like a pet.
Like a pet in his little ball case.
It reminded me like a hamster ball.
Yeah, totally. Well, he even ran around in it for a second. So what?
Like a hamster ball.
What would Gwen's role then be? I mean, clearly she's gonna be like first officer type or something. But what would her role? Because I thought she was very well
communications.
Suited. Yeah, I thought she was very well suited to be a
she's the translator.
Officer.
She speaks all the languages, right?
You're right. Yeah.
She's communications, even though she would be a great security officer. I mean, technically, so would Rock Talk because she can literally pick people up with her pinky, but she doesn't want to. And that might be something that Gwen, being a lover of languages. Like in the pilot, you see her showing the little Cation, like they're all communicating. It's to her, languages are almost like music and like the different melodies of all these different languages. So I think communications fits her best, and she can protect herself. I mean, she's obviously trained. It's like she's grown up in a military almost. But Murf obviously enjoys the enjoys the protecting more. It's like having a guard dog that knows kung fu. I mean, because he's kind of like the pet of theirs, and so it's like having a very well trained. Well, maybe not well trained.
It's like a gremlin, like the gremlins used to be back in the day. Really
like a kung fu gremlin,
like a pet
rock. Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah,
exactly.
That works.
That knows martial arts and.
Okay. So I have a question, another question for the experts here on Star Trek knowledge. Janeway, at some point when they're hovering over in the ship, trying to decide whether to blow up the Protostar or not, decides to fire torpedoes, whatever. Yeah. And then they said, "Oh no, destroy them or stop their abort the mission."
Abort it.
Is that something that has been done before? Aborting a shot that has already been fired? Is that something that we've seen before?
That's a great question. I don't remember that. No,
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, the closest I could think of that was like it, but it wasn't actually a fire shot. But they intentionally missed was in First Contact at the end of the movie there, where they were firing at Zephyr Exactly, they're firing Zephyr Cochrane's ship, and it comes right by a ship, and it ended up missing at the last second.
And then
I don't think they diverted. I think exactly. I don't think it was diverted. It was interesting that you could actually divert the torpedo, which I've never seen that before. That's a great observation, Cirroc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've never seen that either, Ryan? Right?
No.
I've never seen that either. They had back thrusters, and I was like, "What?" Yeah.
Dauntless torpedoes. There you go.
That's smart. I like
those. Are some. Yeah, those are crazy. Yeah.
I like it when the writers come up with something like that. It's new. Smart because it is new, but it totally works. You think about it, you're like, yeah, of course they could do that, and why wouldn't they have that? It's a great addition, I thought. But sorry, what were you saying, Cirroc?
No, I just pointed that out. I just thought it was something that I had never seen before. Also, like the use of Dal's words when he started going big word on us. I was just like, breaking out the big words.
Yeah, I didn't bother writing those down. I was like,
and I loved that Gwen knew what they were. Yeah. She was like, basically now she's thinking to herself, damn it, he can actually beat me in Scrabble now.
You know,
I hope
that's
he
at
changes
least
back.
yeah.
If we have
I can't stand to look at
15
him
letter
like that.
words, but I do want to point out that the lady that played Dr. What was it? With a J?
Jago.
Oh yeah.
Jago. I thought that voiceover lady, and I wish I had gotten her name. I didn't check, but she
Amy
did.
Hill, I think.
Is that what it is? She
Something
did a
Hill,
fantastic job. Like, I didn't just like her voice, but I liked the way she delivered the speech. She's creating a different race just in the way she's pronouncing and the cadence of her speech. And I was really impressed. And I didn't realize it at first. It was on like her 7th line. It kind of hit me. I was like, I really like this woman's delivery. She's killing it.
Her voice was fantastic.
I really appreciate
I
her
think
work.
it was
your dreams.
I might be wrong on I'm pretty sure it was like a Hill, last name Hill. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I know who that is. And so now I feel horrible if I do. And I'm missing up her name.
I should have.
Do you guys catch that they actually went over the whole plot of the outrageous Okona episode from The Next Generation? Mm-hmm. In the dialogue there when Okona was talking to I think Gwyn and Rock talking them, and he was basically he was saying the story about how he was helping these star-crossed lovers get together. That was the episode that he was in The Next Generation. And he was describing that, and then Dahl was correcting him like, well, you didn't mention that you use this as a tactic for dating people or whatever.
It's like, how'd you know?
Yeah.
So okay, so was
exactly that plot?
Was that a Betazoid part of him?
That's what I assumed.
Betazoid or
there have been other mind readers. I mean, yeah, that's true.
There have been other mind. Yeah, it could be. I would assume Betazoid would be the easiest
default mind reader.
You know,
but they mostly do like emotions. So I don't know. I think Bonnie might be onto something. It might be something a different kind of mind. Yeah,
no, there's different types. Betazoid do.
They can mind readers. It's Troy.
They full mind. Like
You're right. You're right.
Counselor Troy is only half, so she is more of like an empath when it comes to emotions and sensing things.
Troy senses you're angry when you're yelling at her. Her mother's
literally just, going in people's heads, going like, and it's like, stop reading their minds, mother, Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Stop. We can speak out loud, mother. Stop speaking. You got lots of
spoilers, Cirroc, for when you guys do Next Generation.
I see.
Have you never seen Next Generation?
No.
Nope. No. Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby will be watching The Next Generation for the first time ever. We'll be going through episode by episode.
What? So awesome. I am so excited for both
Cirroc,
of you.
Lofton. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I might actually be crashing this. I'll just never leave the Zoom like last year.
I think I'm more excited than they are. They're like, oh, that sounds cool. But I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the best thing ever. I can't believe
it. It's going to be so much fun. Oh man. I want to watch it with y'all. Not like with you, but I'm going to I'm due for a rewatch anyway.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Very much.
I heard it's going to start off slow. So we'll see.
Oh no. Yeah, the first season
gets
so good. You're gonna love
It's not rough at all.
Yeah.
Hey, we only have a minute or two left, actually, everybody. Any final thoughts before we roll out?
So that girl's not a Trill, because I was completely in love with Kat and Insensia, and how insensitive of her.
Oh, I was incensed.
So all you guys.
Actually, that's where the Aaron Walke conversation came in. If I remember correctly, somebody asked Aaron if she's a joined Trill or unjoined Trill, and he said unjoined, which totally is another hint, because she couldn't have a Trill, a symbiont inside of her, because she's not an actual Trill. So when he
most
said
Trills are unjoined, though,
right? Like 98% of them or something like that.
Yeah.
So she's an unjoined Trill that had the same eyes as Gwyn, and once you find out what she is, you look back at that and go, "Wow." People are really like they're peeking around.
We're too trusting.
I love it.
God, I loved her for no reason.
Hey, we don't know where her character's gonna go.
She's finding a good place.
She's down with Dreadnought Rasta.
Here's what's blowing my mind is that so she obviously infiltrated Starfleet and is now Starfleet. It's like the connections that you make, like I don't think if I was like a spy, man, like you would have to really believe that Starfleet was in the wrong to not like, it's like hanging out with Janeway every day. Are you kidding me? I'd be like, I can't betray these people. Like there's got to be another way. You would think that they would have to find another way, but whatever.
Maybe she's
but she looked mad. She still looked mad, and Dreadnought's still there. So I'm like, obviously, revenge is still on the table.
Maybe,
or well, not anymore because the table was Dreadnought. But
she switches sides.
Oh,
so
I was gonna say maybe there wasn't a Sensia and she replaced her. Like she took her out and took her stuff and replaced her.
That makes me feel better.
Like the old stormtrooper move. You knock out the stormtrooper and put on their helmet.
Oh, exactly. Like she's basically like using almost like a hologram
face off
disguise or something.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I'm just making that up.
Yeah, Mohammed.
Everybody in the live chat, remind us of the alien race. Was it Conundrum? Where there's that extra commander guy on the Next Generation, and he used this kind of disguise to pretend to be a human, but really he was this different race. Let us know in the live chat or in the comments below, because I can't remember. I think it might be Conundrum, and I don't remember. So I think that the name started with an S, or the alien race. Anyway,
that's what you're talking about.
We do have to run, but we want to give a very well. Thank you.
No, thanks for making it fun and giving us all the answers.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to continue.
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye, we do want to say a very special thanks to, actually, Mohammed, you might be in this group. Homer Frizzell out in New York City, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet. TJ Jackson-Bey, Tim Baum, a.k.a. Grandpa One, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Muller, Darlena Murray, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor.
It's like he's here.
Tierney C. Diekman, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Palat, Erica Strom, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, DQ, Neil Akasaka, Justine Norton Kurtzen, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, Radek Orszewski out in Southwest Poland, Henry Unger, live from Tokyo, Matt Boardman, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. We got to run, but thank you so much, Mohammed. This has been so much fun.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed.
Nice.
Actually, everybody stick around. We'll see you on the flip side of things. When I say stick around, I mean like on the channel. Poke around. See what you can find out there. Talk us out, Bonnie.
Okay. Thank you for all watching The Seventh Rule. Goodbye. Like what else? Do you want me to stall? Do you want me to tap dance? What do you need? What do you need?
Exactly what you said.
Hello, and thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for more.